weren't willing to carry it all the way through. If God's going to do anything in any of your lives, it's going to be because you were willing to carry and shoulder what it is that He asked you to, and to see it through. Too often in our generation we have people who are looking to get served, who are looking... Look, when we started the church 2 years ago, we've gone through things that should have destroyed it internally. We've gone through some very ugly, sick things that have gone on in between leadership that should have completely destroyed it. When we had the burden on our hearts to come plant the church here. Heather and I were only married a couple of months. You know, market was on the high side of buying, and we felt after a few months, we were living in Diamond Bar when we first got married, that we should move over here, buy a house. Prayed about it, got a realtor, started looking around the area, looked for a couple of weeks, found the house that we were going to get. By faith, went and made the offer on the contingency that the other one sold. There were all kinds of different things that were going on into that whole process. We got in, first day, we got these movers in, they moved everything. They're parked out on the front porch. Tire on this freight truck that moved us was flat. And knowing that we had been sent here by God to open a church. I don't know, there could be a nation shaker right now in the room. There could be somebody who needs to hear this that's going to go out and do something big for God. Don't count yourself out just because where you're at right now, or perhaps God hasn't done what you believe that He's going to do as of yet. There's still time. If you're still breathing, God has something to do with you yet. But on that burden, we're there and we're sitting there, and I start speaking with some of the movers and start sharing with one of them while they're waiting to get this tire fixed. And one of them gets saved right there on the front lawn before we spent our first night in the house. I felt like God was just saying, you're going to carry it all the way through. But He's going to be there to help you. So, look, if you're going to carry anything for God, you have to be willing to put off what it is that you're carrying of your own. Too oftentimes, people never get a hold of the question that God asks in Isaiah when He says, you know, who's going to go for us? We don't have enough people standing up and saying that they're going to go. Even with the small church that we have here, find a place to serve. Don't let it be that you say this is your church and you don't find a place to serve. I'm very proud of us in the respect that anytime we go out to do outreach or anything like that, we usually have like an 80% turnout, 60% turnout. There's churches that are in the thousands that are lucky if they get 0.5% of people to show up to do something that God may be asking the body to do. The thing about burdens, though, is they're never done alone. They're never going to be carried alone. If you would, Numbers 11, verses 10 through 17. This is a great prayer if you've ever read it before. Numbers chapter 11, verses 10 through 17. Goes on to read. It says, Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, everyone at the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused. Moses also was displeased. So Moses said to the Lord, Why have you afflicted your servant? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I beget them? That you should say to me, Carry them in your bosom, as a guardian carries a nursing child, to the land which you swore to their fathers? Where am I to get meat to give all these people? For they all weep over me, saying, Give us meat that we may eat. And I am not able to bear all these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. If you treat me like this, please kill me here and now, if I have found favor in your sight, and do not let me see my wretchedness. So if any of you have wondered how to pray, I hear people all the time say, I don't know how to pray. That is a magnificent picture of honesty in the throne room. Look, God can take the worst of you in His presence. I know that at times when we go to pray, we get this holiness attitude all of a sudden, and we have to put our faith face on, and we have to say all the right things in His presence, and we have to be somebody that we're not because somehow we feel like He's going to reject us or He can't handle what's really going on the inside of me when I go pray. But in reality, God can. You have God's man here saying, just kill me. I don't even know why you called me to do this. This is too much for me. I'm a mess, and I don't know what you want to do with me in the first place. And that's God's man. I think some of us just have a warped idea of what it means to serve a real God because He is real. And I heard it said, when you serve a real God, you'll be real. God can handle the worst of you, folks. God can handle you when you're ugly and you got nobody else to love you, to pat you on the back and say, you're doing a magnificent job. God still opens door and welcomes us with open arms to come before Him, even in our ugliest states. It's worth it. In verse 16 it says, so the Lord said to Moses, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be elders of the people and officers over them. Bring them to the tabernacle of meeting, that they may stand there with you. Then I will come down and talk with you there. I will take of the Spirit that is upon you, and will put the same upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it yourself alone. God's answer here to what Moses was carrying is to get other people involved. And I'm a horrible person at this, especially with church, and I'm growing in it. You know, I'm just one of those guys who wants to do everything himself. And I've said, and I've tried to determine in my own heart that I want to give ministry away, give people the ability to make a mistake, and give people the ability to do things, even though they may not be the way that I would like them to be done. And that's not directed to anybody who serves here, just so you know. This has to do with me. It's because I'm a maniac. And I know some of you are too. Some of us shoulder things that even God, He was in the will of God. He was told by God to go and get these people out, to lead them to the promised land. There's no doubt about what he was called to do. The guy was doing it. But the way he was going about it was not the most helpful. Certainly to himself and certainly to the people, because the people suffered because the guy was just spread so thin. God said, look, give me some guys that are leaders or viewed as leaders in the eyes of the people. You come, you meet me here at the tabernacle of meeting. I'm going to take of what I've laid on you and I'm going to put some of it on them so they can shoulder the burden with you. And you don't have to burn out or die before your time doing the will of God because of a lack of wisdom or because of an ego or because of your pride or because your inability to receive help. You know, there are people that would be willing to help shoulder whatever it is that God's called you to do. But sometimes it takes us to go ahead and ask. The Bible says you don't have because you don't ask. You could be doing the will of God and breaking your back